afraid I won't make the same mistake.
Hello, Synergy people. You've asked for it. You've probably seen the leaked little clips. It is here, the 2CP module from Synergy. So what is this? I personally have never owned a 2C Plus, which, okay, I can say it, is a Mesa Boogie 2C Plus. Had it in a head, had it in a combo. Appeared in 1983 for about a year. They made 1,400 of them. There is, of course, the Mark I. Then came the Mark IIA, which had some problems. Then came the Mark IIB with some problems fixed. Then there came the Mark IIC, which had more problems fixed, effects loop, reverb volume, stuff like this. And then the 2CP, which doesn't necessarily mean it had an EQ. That the plus isn't the EQ. It isn't even more gain or anything. It is other things they fixed. So, and that amp was very popular in the LA studio scene. And at some point, a certain Kirk Hammet discovered that when on the graphic EQ you went with a V and kicked out the mids, you had a really cool sound. And as a fan of the Hammet, I assume, a Mr. Petrucci discovered that amp a little bit later and then used it for his band where they make the prog. So those people, and of course loads and loads of other people, but specifically in the heavier genres, those people really used it, and that's why it's such a coveted amp. Now, with the Synergy system, we can have it. It just doesn't say the M on it, which is fine because the M is now the G, and I don't like him. It's a Synergy product. Now, who designed it? The man who designed this thing, the Deliverance, designed it. A Stephen Fryette. And now you're going to ask yourself, what does Stephen Fryette freaking know about the Mesa Boogie? I said it again. The 2CP. Well, he's been repairing amps, servicing amps in the LA scene since the late 70s. And he was there when those changes were made. If you want to know everything about that time and his expertise and the module and the 2CP in general, or the 2C Plus, and those times, there's a 2-hour really, really cool in-depth interview with him about that amp and the module on my channel, probably coming tomorrow, which means for you, it's already there. You're probably watching this later. Now, let's go into it. This is a very truthful representation of the amp, meaning it was done in a way so that if you have the amp and you're familiar with it, everything kind of feels familiar. In essence, it was kind of one-channel-ish, which means that it's very important to understand the, let's call it clean gain, which is actually just volume here, just volume 1, will affect how much gain you can get out of channel 2, the drive channel. So these two are kind of interdependent in the sense that you want more gain from the drive, you have to crank up the volume on the clean. Both of them have a bright switch. Both of them have a lead shift or shift. They have a shift for the mids, and everything about this amp is in the mids. That's what you gotta understand. First, we kick in a lot of mids, and then we take them out with the D. Why am I doing Kermit? I don't know. So, whereas on many amps, this little mid-shift thing is like, I can imagine something happens. No. Something freaking happens here, okay? It's very pronounced, even cocked wah kind of sound. Sorry I said cocked, but that's how you say it. It's this really, really narrow mid boost, which can be very cool. Then we got, let me get this correct, bass, treble, mids in a weird configuration. So bass is here, treble here, mids here. Careful with the bass because there's quite a bit of it. And then there's a presence, which is in the Syn 50 rather subtle, just to let you know. So don't expect that you can boost a ton or the crispy high end. It's a subtle shift, a subtle top end. Depending on your power amp, it behaves a little bit differently. Then, of course, we have the piste de resistance, the thing that it's all about, except if back then you had the one without. That rhymes. The EQ. And now, okay, you need to be a smurf to operate this one because it is rather, tiny. There isn't a notch in the middle, so you don't really know exactly where you are in the middle. And even like it just is, it doesn't have the biggest travel distance. So tiny little adjustments will, of course, have an effect because it's the tiniest freaking 5-band EQ. But that's fine because you probably set it to the traditional V. And the way that my friend Bernd Kiltz, who loves this sound, he's got a 2CP, says to set it up for me to check it out so that he can determine whether he needs to buy this module or not, is kick in all the mids, take the bass down, and then you push in all the mids, and then you take them out with the V. We're going to, of course, try that band for you. And then there's volume for each of the channels. So one thing you definitely have to know is careful with the volume on the clean, because it will affect the gain on the drive. There's an LED above the EQ, and you can drive the EQ too hard, either with how you're pumping into it, and then this will tell you, hey, by the way, it's too much gain in here, or how loud you have the channel, or also how much you're pushing all that EQ up, which simply means if you like that shape you have, take the whole shape down a bit. Okay, so this will warn you about overloading the EQ. The general tone for me, without any additional brights in EQ, is a rounder, a little bit darker clean and also drive. But then, of course, you can massage that any way you want. The EQ can be in, shows you orange. It can be out, or it can be auto, which means it's in when you're on channel 2. So on channel 1, it's off. On channel 2, it kicks in automatically. So we're gonna start. Here's a Heritage H150, middle of the road, 2,600 euro Heritage guitar. Beautiful, sparkly cleans for Les Paul type guitar. And I think a good guitar to test this amp. So we are on the neck position right now. I do have, you have to say this, a gate in the effects loop, as well as some effects if I want to kick them in. The gate is necessary when you go into the drive channel, because there's a lot of drive and there's also a lot of noise. So I highly recommend you use a gate with this. I'm using the Rev G8 or the Rev gate. It works, and I've got the 4-cable method. So it's measuring the guitar and then actually gating in the effects loop. So right now this is rather dull. It is going, I'm sorry to say it again, through a cream backloaded 412 in the aux. Would be too dark for me. So step number 1, we kick in the bright. There we go. Let's put on some reverb. Reverb is coming from my EchoFix EFX2. Fizzlish thick. If you want a little bit of grit, it can do that. Can it do, how much can the clean do? Just take the bass down a bit, treble in. So it gets really interesting once you kick in the shift. Honky. So now we have that really focused mid frequency. Of course, it pushes, so there's a little bit of drive happening because of that. Now if you go and dial back the tone on your guitar, you really have that singy, honky sound. So you can definitely play around with that and with more gain that really jumps out. So we haven't even played around with the EQ at all. Let's do that. Kick that in. Kick that out again. Beautiful honkiness. So going back, then the mids, that's 750. And then of course bass. Oh, sorry, I'm rolled down here. Let's do that again. That's the, was it 240? And then 80. I wish I was a Smurf. You can really probably get really nice jazzy round sounds happening. Some treble here. Very, very tunable and definitely not just your typical metal thing. So that's for the clean. Should we go through the normal EQ? Let's do this. Why not? With the graphic off. That's how you make it lean when you want it to be responsive. Here are the highs. everything more subtle. That's why you have the graphic EQ. We're moving on right here. That's extremely round. That's extremely dull. It's not a horrible sound, but that's not what you want. That's why you have the tune stability. What in the right hand? This is how you get more gain. Now if I turn the gate off, it's not horrible. Okay. So let's take that back a bit. Now we kick in the treble, the bright. It's not the clarity that a modern high-gain amp has, like the Rev. I was going to say like the Soldano, but that's not necessarily a modern high-gain amp. Because it's not a modern amp. This thing is 1983. It's thick. There's a lot of low-end, typical to the M brand. That's what they do. And you have to fiddle with it. You have to massage it. So let's massage it. Let's kick in the mids right here. Now it will really punch out from a mix. Of course it will. Let's give it a little bit more gain there. So I've got quite a bit of mids in here now. It should already be a really cool lead sound, but the trick apparently is to now kick this in into the typical V, taking those mids out. That's a little bit drastic, but oh my God, A and B. can see that the EQ was flashing a bit, and the difference between super mid-cut, mid-scooped and not is 1 millimeter on the mid-set. Having that in is kind of that mid shift is kind of important. So let's unscoop it a bit. You really have to be careful with those. So yeah, you can get those super scoopy sounds and super aggressive sounds. It can metal pretty much any way you want it to. But for me, it's in the leads. I've played a whole bunch of things with this thing so far, and the leads are just to die for. So I'm going to kick in some real tape reverb from the Ecofix EFX2. Blah, 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 blah. It's got a lot of sounds. If you want the really classic Metallica and Dream Theater sounds, you can absolutely get them. You want super mid-scooped sounds, they're there. But there's a lot more. There's great cleans. Everything starts a little bit dull. Everything starts a little bit muffled. But that's typical for the M brand, which is now a G brand. But that's why you have the bright, the shift, and the EQ. This is not a module that you're gonna get or check out in a store and immediately love it. It will not immediately reveal itself to you. This video, important. Some other videos, important. Learn what people are saying. Approach it with that, definitely knowing that this gain is affecting this one. Very important, which really doesn't make it a fully fledged independent 2-channel thing. It's got one EQ anyway, so it's a 1.5 channel thing. But if for a studio situation, you can set up a shit ton of stuff. And if you're into creamy leads with loads of gain, it's freaking there. I've played it for about 2 weeks now in a bunch of videos you didn't even know. I always said it's the mystery module. And it's the lead sounds that we grew up with. Maybe not you, but definitely me. And it can deliver. So, 2CP, Synergy, that rhymes. I recommend it. I like it. I'm going to keep it. It's going to stay right there for now. I can, of course, always take it out and put something else there, but it's a great module. Stephen Froyet and the team did a phenomenal job, so thanks for that, Stephen. My interview with him is going to be live on the channel now, probably, or if you're watching this on release day, wait a day. And I want to thank Synergy for commissioning this video. Means they're paying for it. That's not why it sounded good. It sounded good because it sounds good. If I have something to bitch about, I will bitch about it. Trust me. Or don't. I put links below. They are very important. Please use them to Sweetwater and Thomann if you're interested in buying. That really helps me. It does actually generate dog food and stuff like this. Not that Thomann, that magically dog food is generated and then Thomann sends me dog food. It's cash, which I then transfer, Leslie then transfers into dog food. Talking about dogs, animals at the end.
I've been waiting and again that you're gone for good. Think about it, burn your lighters, wish I only could. Forget your bonus that you keep appearing in my dreams like a vision, a decision that's been made as it seems. But don't leave me standing here like an idiot in the rain. Oh, I miss the tender kisses and your lovely smile, and I damn those are the men who made you say goodbye. Should've known that I'd blown it when you looked away. The direction of your affection had long gone astray.